This is the 225th day of Ukrainian resistance. Media Center Ukraine Inform works. My name is Vasily Samokhvalov, and we are starting our next briefing. Our guest is Mykola Lukashuk. He's the head of Dnipropetrovsk Oblast Council and the deputy head of Dnipropetrovsk Oblast Defense Council. Mykola, good afternoon. Good afternoon, dear journalists. Mykola, we know that at night there was shelling again. Again, it was Nikopol and several districts. And the question is the following: whether it makes sense to have some kind of a obligatory evacuation from Nikopol and the nearby areas, or what should we do to ensure the safety of these territories and people there as much as possible. Look, almost every day the enemy is shelling Nikopol area. Now the shelling is from the territory of Enerhodar exclusively. They're hitting with grads, sometimes with heavy artillery. You need to understand that the distance between Enerhodar and Nikopol is rather small. It is up to 7 kilometers, so almost all weapons can hit this distance, starting from mine throwers, rocket systems, and other things. Now in Nikopol district, over 356 apartment buildings are ruined, and over 1,000 private sector buildings. Why? Because near the water reservoir there is a private sector with one-story buildings. In Nikopol before the war, we had 120,000 people living there, and this is a rather big industrial center. Now this town has almost 80,000 people who left, and the situation now is as following. When we were looking into it during the meeting of the Defense Council, we talked to the mayor, to the people, to the local self-government. People leave at night. During the day they come back to their homes, and they come back to their workplaces. And even under these circumstances, the companies are working, industrial companies are working, they're paying salaries to people, and these salaries are rather high. And the situation indeed is difficult. And the issue of evacuation from Nikopol, from Marhanets, is not a relevant issue right now. I would like to clarify: the safety and security issue is difficult now. It will be even more complicated in winter, because infrastructural objects, if they're shelled during the heating season, it will impact even more the quality of life of people. How these near frontline areas, to what extent are they ready to the heating season and the oblast in general? I will start from Nikopol. In the town of Nikopol, during the time of the war, there was one emergency recently when Nikopol was left without water. Infrastructure was shelled, but using this opportunity, I would like to thank all the emergency services of the electricity systems of the town of Nikopol and the tech company, because they managed to restore water supply in the course of one day. Also recently, shellings hit the wires. There is problem with electricity supply, and today, just before our briefing, I was reported that about 1,500 households have again electricity supply restored to them. If we are talking about preparation to the heating season, we have checked all the local infrastructure, all the boiler rooms, and all the pipes, and now the companies are talking about some new agreements about gas supply. And talking in general about this, the oblast is ready to start the heating season. In 76 communities we are ready, but in 3 districts separately, together with the oblast military administration, we have discussed that Snelnikova, Nikopol, and Kryvyi Rih districts are the ones that currently suffer the most from shelling. Nikopol is, of course, the one suffering the most. We discussed to have some firewood there, stored there, and the oblast military administration is working on this. We have a question from colleagues. Just a minute. Could you speak a little louder, please? Yes. While we're doing this. Okay, it works now. Thank you. Irina Mamcher, who can inform. I have one clarifying question on the outflow of people from Nikopol. You explained us about this, but please tell us. Do people leave into Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, or is there in general an outflow of people from Dnipropetrovsk Oblast somewhere deeper to safer regions of Ukraine? This is the first question that I have. And the second question is on Dnipro city, if I may, the Oblast center, the Oblast capital. What is the situation now with public transportation? Because we all remember this heat when over 100 buses were destroyed. Has the situation been resolved by now? Thank you. First, on Nikopol and on the situation there, most of the people who used to live in Nikopol, in Marhanets, they go out to Pokrov. It is impossible to rent in Pokrov now, either an apartment or a house. They also go to other communities that are close to Nikopol district. Also, all people who are now coming from the Kherson Oblast when there is the occupation, liberation, and partially from Nikopol, they're also moving mostly to Kryvyi Rih. Those people who are coming to Pokrov and other communities, such as Tomak community, they go out to spend the night there, and during the day they come back to Nikopol. This is the dynamics on the movement of the people. If we speak about Dnipro, indeed, we had this hit and 52 buses were fully destroyed and almost 100 buses were partially damaged, so they cannot be running their routes. Now, on this question, the Dnipro community is working. Boris Filatov is working on this. There is communication with other big cities. Yesterday, from Kyiv, we received 30 buses, and partially the routes, because Dnipro is a big city, where before the war, we had a little over 1 million people living, and there are many routes. So local self-government did everything possible to change these routes, to increase the time in between the buses so that people would have the opportunity to take these routes to get home and to get to work. On additional purchases, on acquiring new buses, I think that Dnipro self-government should be asked about this, but this problem is being solved. I have another question. Kryvyi Rih and the shelling of infrastructural objects there, including the dam. What is the situation there now? Will this be restored to the pre-war situation? Is there some kind of a temporary solution? Could you please share any details on this? Yes. Rather briefly on the situation with the dam, everybody understands why the enemy did that. There was more than one hit, and I have already mentioned this. I said that this is a unique operation on solving not a technogenical emergency, but a technogenical emergency related to the Russian invasion. We should thank the head of the emergency services in the city, the mayor, and we should thank people who developed the plan of dealing with this emergency, including Sitnichenko, the head of the military administration of the city. But now there is no danger, and all the measures that were possible to use have been taken to prevent such accidents in the future. Coming back to Kryvyi Rih, if I may, I will make another comment. The experience of Kryvyi Rih on dealing with such accident. It was communicated to all the other oblasts that have dams, that have complicated hydrological infrastructures. But this information is secret from the public. Going back to Kryvyi Rih and on restoring the work of industrial companies, I heard the steel mills started working again. Is it true? basically on steel mills working, on large companies working. We will be able to say after the 20th of this month, the Oblast military administration looks at the budget of the Oblast. If the taxes are paid, it means the companies are working. On the companies in Kryvyi Rih, the sale of products became a problem. Of course, before the war, mostly, we were selling products through ports, partially Mykolaiv ports, and also the ports of Odessa. Now this logistics is mainly automobiles trucks that go to the western border. And in this relation, part of the companies started working not even with 70%, but 30, 50% of their capacity. But they're still working and people receive salaries. We think that under the circumstances, with the improving situation in the front line, especially in the Kherson direction, when there is decreased danger to Mykolaiv and Odessa, and this has already decreased the number of shelling of Kryvyi Rih area, because when Zelenodolsk community and other communities had a distance of 10-20 kilometers to the front line, it was one thing and everything could reach there. Now this distance is over 70 kilometers, and after some time our army will be deoccupying and liberating Borislav and other communities, and then the danger to Kryvyi Rih and its area will be decreased even more. And this will allow us to deblock part of the roads going to Mykolaiv, and I'm convinced that this logistics will help our big companies. The companies that the city is based on would work with full capacity. God let this happen this way. Thank you for the details that you have provided. Mykola Lukashuk, the head of Dnipropetrovsk Oblast Council, was with us, and our next briefing will take place at 1 p.m. We will be talking to Volodymyr Matsokin, Deputy Mayor of Izum, on the situation in Izum. See you.